7th grade class. Mr. Brauer here. Just want to say I miss all of you greatly. You bring smiles to my face every day, and I missed that for the last couple weeks not seeing you. Today we're going to be coming at you from YouTube videos once a week to kind of talk about one of the topics that you're going to be learning on your own. I wish you could be responding back to me, but I know that's not possible right now in the way we have things, so let's make the best of it. Hope you guys are all doing well, and if you need anything, please email me so that I can pray for you or whatever we need to do. But today we are on the hunt for the elusive earthworm, because we're talking about worms for this chapter. So let's see if we can find an earthworm anywhere. Where would they be? Wow, what luck! An earthworm. Now, he's a little small because obviously they haven't had a lot of time to grow yet this season, and the bigger ones are still staying in the ground. But this guy here would be good bait for fishing. Okay, well, we know that there are three different types of worms, three different phylums of worms. We talk about kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Well, there's three different phylums of worms. Worms are part of the animal kingdom, but we have roundworms, flatworms, and segmented worms. Well, this earthworm here, he's part of the segmented worms. And the reason he's called a segmented worm is because he has hundreds of little lines that you probably can't see through the video, but he has hundreds of little lines on him, and each one of those lines makes up a segment. All worms, all three phylum of worms are invertebrates. We know that invertebrates mean they don't have backbones. Well, worms actually don't have any bones. They're very simple creatures. In fact, science classifies them as the simplest creature with a brain. Worms have long bodies, as you can see. They have no legs, so none of the three types of worms have legs. They have bilateral symmetry. Last section that you guys were supposed to have learned about was about symmetry. Bilateral symmetry means that they are the same on both sides if you would cut them right down the middle. So if we cut this worm straight down and cut him in half, he would look the same on both sides. That is bilateral symmetry. As opposed to no symmetry, which means that if you cut it in half, it doesn't look the same. So like, for instance, this rock right here, if we cut that rock in half, one side is going to be big and bulgy while the other one is going to be small. Radial symmetry would mean that things are organized around a center. And so some flowers, like a carnation, would be radial symmetry, where it looks the same no matter which angle you would slice it. Some worms reproduce sexually, and some reproduce asexually. This worm here, the earthworm that I have in my hand, he is both male and female. Earthworms have the sex organs of both male and female, but he does not reproduce asexually. He actually reproduces the old-fashioned way. Asexual would mean is they would just break off part of their bodies and it would form a new worm. Well, let's go into talking about each of the specific types of worms. For safety reasons, I can't show you a flatworm today, because a flatworm would be like a tapeworm. And tapeworms can get really long, and they are really flat, and tapeworms are considered to be parasites. We know that a parasite usually lives inside of another organism called a host, and parasites usually are dangerous for the host. If a dog has a tapeworm, the tapeworm usually will eat all of the food that the dog eats, and therefore the dog will get sick and the dog would eventually die. In college, when I was dissecting cats, and I think I've told you guys this before, that I had to dissect a cat, one of the groups behind me, the girls all screamed because they pulled out a tapeworm from their dissecting cat. And the tapeworm was about 15 feet long. And that explains why that cat died and we were able to dissect it, because the tapeworm took over the internal organs of that cat. If a dog gets a tapeworm, what happens is the tapeworms will take over the dog's stomach and intestines and eat all the food, and they will then poop or or lay eggs inside of the dog. And then when the dog poops those eggs out, they get into the grass. And then those eggs hatch, and a bunny rabbit comes along and eats the grass and gets some of the tapeworm babies into its body, and now the tapeworms keep reproducing through animals. Humans can get tapeworms, however, very unlikely in this country because we cook our food very well. If you want to avoid getting any of these parasitic worms, make sure you cook your meat to the proper temperatures that the different organizations tell us, so that you can properly cook and kill all the parasites that live in the meats. An old wives' tale or a story that people used to tell about how we could figure out if there's a tapeworm inside your body would be, and I've told you 7th graders this before, but just in case you forgot, take a bowl of milk, put it out on the table, and sit over the bowl of milk like this. And as you do that, you would feel the tapeworm start to work its way up through your esophagus, into your throat, and start coming out of your mouth. And then you can start to peel the tapeworm out of your throat. And that's an old wives' tale. I still believe it's true, but a lot of people say that it isn't. All right, so after the flatworm, then we talk about the roundworm. And the roundworm is one that we're not going to talk about specific types, because there are just many roundworms. A lot of them appear in your pets. Most dogs throughout their lives will have some kind of roundworm in their body, and that roundworm needs a veterinarian to give the dog medicine to get rid of that. Okay? Roundworms can live in almost any environment that's moist, including Antarctica. There are some roundworms that live in the frigid temperatures of Antarctica. Okay, but we're here to talk about this guy here, the segmented worm, as I said. Okay, and as I said, there's like 100 segments to this little guy. He's really cold right now, and so am I. My hand is actually freezing, and you can see I've got some dirt and some worm poop on me right now. But don't be worried, because worm poop is basically just soil, because the worm eats all the dirt and it poops it back out the other end after it takes out the nutrients that it needs. Now, this is the type of worm that we were going to be dissecting this year if we were in school right now. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, but since we're not at school, we're not going to be able to dissect this little guy. And he's actually pretty happy about that. See him say yay? Yay! But he is not wanting to be dissected. But if we were going to dissect this little guy, we would notice that it has a head and an anus. A worm has two ends to it. The head is obviously over here, which has a mouth in it, and that's where he's able to eat. And then on the other end, he has the anus, which is where he poops out the stuff. Basically, the lower 3/4 of this worm are useless. All they are is nerves and intestine. So basically, if we were to dissect this little guy here, all of the stuff that we'd be looking for are right up here in this part, and everything else down here is just nerve endings and basically topsoil. If I press the worm here, he feels it, and I just dropped him. But wherever I touch him on his body, he feels it because he has nerves running all the way through his body. He has 5 hearts, but all 5 hearts are up in the top third of this worm. Okay? He's a very boring creature. When we cut him open to look at him, 2 of the organs that we would be looking for, and you will not find these in your textbook, would be the crop and the gizzard. The crop and the gizzard are 2 digestive organs in the worm, kind of like our stomach, that take the soil, it goes in through the mouth, it passes the brain, it passes the hearts, and it goes into the crop and the gizzard where it digests out the stuff that it needs, and then sends the rest of it down the intestine and out the anus. Now, this little guy here, he is extremely important for us, because what he does is he takes the soil and makes it much more conducive for our world to be able to survive. He burrows holes in the soil. Those holes allow water, air, and nutrients to get into the soil. It allows them to get into the soil for plants. Plant roots can grow easier because the worms have broken up the dirt down there. And basically, when the worms poop out, that is fertilizing the soil. So this is our first lesson on YouTube about worms and what the worms do for us and the different types of worms. And I ask that as you do your homework this week, that you really concentrate on being thorough in your answers and remembering that even something as small as this earthworm in God's creation was created for an absolute wonderful purpose. And we all work together and we all live together on this earth, and we need to take care of it. And so I want you guys to have a great week. Email me with any questions or prayer requests that you have, and I will see you all hopefully soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless you all.